Well, I think that having been in a position of in different activities, I would say that what is important is that in my different jobs, I was essentially in strategic activities. So this has allowed me to have a view on the global picture. And the second is that I've always been in the international activities. Particularly, for instance, in the ICH, which is the International Harmonization Conference of Harmonization. I used to be in the steering committee, so this allowed me to have discussion about the development at worldwide basis, and this with the health authorities of the US, Japan, and Europe. So, and all in my jobs in the pharmaceutical companies also, I was in a strategic position. In fact, overruling the technical aspects, not directly involved in the technical aspects. So this needs different, well, if I may say, skills, which is firstly to think politically. The second is to try to, well, to like to put the people together in order to try to move forward. And the third thing is to be creative and to be positive for the future, and just to take the good things and to try to put aside the negative aspects which would block you. So I've always been somebody who liked to move forward in different activities that I've been very, well, you know, proud and also pleased to fill. Well, I would not speak about guidelines, I would speak about regulations, and particularly in that case because I'm more familiar with that, with the European regulations. I see there are two main ones. The first is around pharmacovigilance and the management of the risk. And as you know, our population is very natural, are more and more keen of securing the use of pharmaceuticals. And also, because of that, health authorities who are in charge. They have to be sure that things are going in the right direction. So there is a specific aspect in pharmacovigilance is what is called the risk management, is to try to, in fact, get information in order to be sure that we have enough and that this information is spread to the people. And the second, within the risk management, is what is called risk minimization or mitigating the risk. And there are different aspects there, and in particularly all the stakeholders are involved in that. Of course, the health authorities, because they fix information, which is the official one, but also the health professionals. When, for instance, the doctors prescribe, they have to be very careful in the way they prescribe, adapt to the needs of each patient in an individual way. Pharmacists who deliver and who have to take into account specific aspects in the delivery, particularly interaction between the different products. And the patient themselves. Patients, they have to take care of themselves, and particularly they have to read the leaflet of the product to be sure that there are information that they have to take into account, in particular the way the drug can be used in the best way. So this is all these aspects are very important. The second important topic, which is essentially in developing countries but which have reached our developed countries, is the question of counterfeiting of drugs. And in this aspect, there is a need for securing all the supply chain, starting with the APIs, the active pharmaceutical ingredients, knowing that most of these ingredients are now produced abroad, and for instance in China and India. So when these products are imported in the US or in EU or in Japan, there is a need for securing the quality of these products. And also to be sure that the products which arrive are not only substandards, but also could be sometimes counterfeit. So then it's a reason why health authorities in the world have considered it very important to secure all these aspects. And in particular, and we see that the FDA has been very active on this side in establishing offices in China and in India in order to secure this pharmaceutical chain and supply chain. So this is the second aspect that is really important. The third one, which is of interest and which is totally different, is about patient information. And the fact that more and more patients want to have their own information to make their own decisions. So they want to have the global picture. They have availability to information via the internet. But sometimes they have also they need to have some official information, which allows them to be sure that what they read, or to compare what they read and what they watch on the internet and what they read in the official information, and to make their own decision. I think that more and more this is something which is essential, is that patients want to have a sort of informed consent in the way they move forward on their in taking their drugs. Well, you know, the IA is very active, and as incoming president, I was last year, and till now, the chair of the strategic planning committee. So we've been able to set up our main goals for the following years, and especially for the following year. I think there will be perhaps three aspects. The first is the question of globalization. DI is more and more global, and I'm just a living example, because I'm the first non-English speaker. So I try to speak English, but it's not my mother language. So I'm French, and I'm the first European president of the IA, which is just a sign and a sort of a symbol. And the president-elect next year, who will be president, is Chinese. So this is something which is really important. So DIA is naturally established in North America, is present in Europe, is present in Japan. This is somewhere the history. But now DIA is expanding, present in China. We had an annual meeting last May with 1,000 people. And we have also DIA established in India. And at the board just last week, we decided to go for a provisional advisory committee for Latin America. So for several years, DIA had some activities in Latin America with annual meetings and also more specialized meetings. And now we have this group of people who are professionals and who will be able to discuss together how to move forward, how to match the needs of the different stakeholders. Always to keep in mind that DIA is a neutral forum where we have the regulatory authorities, the industry people, the consultants, health professionals, and our patients. So this is really large, and so globalization. The second is training. Training is to us a real task, and we are already present, and we have some training activity in the US, in the EU, more and more now in developing countries, emerging countries. What is important is that we try to put all this in perspective, to develop a real strategy, to use in the best way our abilities and the skills of the people who participate with us as volunteers, as trainers. I just met a few minutes ago somebody who is in the CMC activities and who is from Europe, and he, with DIA, went recently to India to train the people about the basics, about the quality aspect of the production of products. So this is the second aspect. The third one is what we call here at DI the digital strategy, which is in fact to go, in community of people using these new technologies. So not only revamping the website, but establishing some interaction and allowing the members of DIA to get information in specific ways. So this is something that we have started to do, and we hope that we will be able to finalize this project at the end of this year or beginning of next year. But already we have for our members, and particularly for the members of what we call the SciEx, which is a specialized area interest communicate. We have some what we call connects, which allows them to be in connection. The word is well chosen. That these people are really able to exchange about their interest at different levels. The level of just asking questions and trying to get an answer from their counterparts and colleagues. And the other is to go at perhaps a more strategic level to try to make moving forward their specialties. So this is the second, the third aspect which is important to us. So you have three, and we can find several others if you would like. Well, convergence is a need as development is more and more complex. And you know, in the past you had some scientists, we were able to know most of the picture, of the story. Now it's totally impossible. It is so difficult that we have to work all together. So we have to work together within the risk is always to be in silos, you know, and also to consider that we know enough. No, we don't know enough, so we have to work together. So we have to work together, the industry people within the companies, they have to work the different departments, but they have to work with the health professionals, and they have to work with the regulatory authorities. We see that the need for more and more advisors. In the US, you have the NDA process. In Europe, we have what we call the scientific advice. So all this is something which is really essential. That's the first aspect. The second is that the picture is really larger, and so we have new stakeholders coming. And for instance, the patients. So patients are there, and we will speak about that a bit later on. But what is important is that they have a role which is essential in here. So conventions and competition. Well, competition is something which is very natural. And but you have a lot of activities where you can discuss all together. And what DI organizes, like in the annual meeting here, is exactly that. We share information, and information which is global information, general knowledge, and we don't speak about products, directly products. If we were speaking about products, it would be commercial. No, we are not in this activity. So we are able, with the regulatory authorities, with the industry people, with the companies in charge of development, particularly the CROs, to put things together on the table and can have a dialogue in this neutral forum. So it's why so this meeting is a very good example of convergence, and it is the main theme of the annual meeting this year. Well, you know, patients, they want, as individuals, they want to make their own decision. They want to be well informed. So then the word is informed consent. So with that, they need to have this kind of information, and they need to, well, to just be able to make that decision. But I think that we can consider that patients have, out of their own, you know, interest, they are more and more organized in order to play a game in the global activities. And we have a very good example here at the annual meeting, where we have the first in the US patient fellowship. We have patients who are able to speak together, firstly. Second, to speak with the regulatory authorities and the industry. What is the interest? The interest is that patients have their own views about their disease, which is different or complementary to the ones of the regulatory authorities or the what think the companies or pharmaceutical industry. Namely, that they have their own views about their perception. When you are a patient, when you wake up, you are a patient. When you go to bed, you are a patient as well the whole day. You're not, if you are healthy, you're only a health consumer, and you have a very external view. When you are a patient, you are in, and you know well. And you know well what is good for you and what is not good for you. So then the patients will have more and more influence on the process, because they will be able to tell regulatory authorities, to tell industry, to tell health professionals, these are needs. It's what we would like to have. So they will have influence more and more on, for instance, in the development, on the design of the trials. And also they will have an influence on the way, on the perception of risk. Because the external people think always the risk is too high. But the patients know well that the risk is a balance between the benefit and the risk, and they are prepared to take a few risks in taking pharmaceuticals, because all of us know that pharmaceuticals are not exempt of any risk. Each time you take a pharmaceutical, you have a potential risk. So patients, they accept this as soon as everything is transparent. So this is really very important. So this is the first time here in the US. We have the experience of this patient fellowship in Europe, and that works very well. And we'll see the second aspect of this patient inclusion is that the patient will be more and more involved in the decision-making process about pharmaceutical authorization and granting. And so we had a discussion already here with the patients and the regulatory authorities about their role. And they raised the good questions, I have to say. And what is interesting also, I know well the relationship with the patients because I was at the origin of some of these activities in Europe, to see that they have exactly in the US, in Europe, I don't know exactly about Japan, but they have the same questions and they give the same answers to the questions. So this is an interesting exercise that we have been able to start here, and that we will follow, of course. We will just take the advantage of their comments in order to move forward in the right direction for the following months and years.